The other thing that is here is my friendship funnel, which is understanding the stages of friendships. And I would love you. Stage 1 is saying hello. Stage 2 is being an acquaintance, which on occasional conversation. Stage 3, early potential friendship, is where you might share things together, that you might hang out a bit more. But stage 4 is where you actually developing a friendship, whereas you make an effort to catch up. So you might have them over for a play date or arrange to meet in the playground in the morning. So you can get children to actually share what it looks like, because what it looks like when you're 7 compared to 12 is different. Friends constantly make an effort to maintain a friendship and spend time together. So what does that look like for the children in your class? And number 6 is close friends. And this is who you share your secrets with, because some of my children are doing that back at stage 2. Hi everyone, welcome to the Sue Larkey podcast. As I always say, you have to embrace difference to make a difference. Let's dive into today's podcast. Well, welcome everybody. I'm hoping that when you listen to this that you have registered for my upcoming webinar on May 10th, 2023, An Hour of Power, where we're going to do a deep dive into social emotional learning and social skills. And to go with that social skills or social knowledge is an ebook. And in that ebook, I have got like the complexity of social skills, 10 top tips to remember when teaching social skills, making friends and being one, the friendship funnel, solutions and strategies for common playground behaviours, tips to set up lunchtime clubs, theory of mind, plus my favourite resources for social emotion. So if you haven't downloaded the ebook or haven't signed up for the webinar, I recommend you do that, because then you'll get the ebook that goes along with what I'm talking about today. So you can have that as an easy reference to refer back to. I have Audible, but I still buy the printed book. I like to flick through things. So I might listen to a book, particularly if they're a nonfiction book. I'm indifferent a storybook, but I just find I still love having the book. So if you're like me, then I highly recommend you download the ebook. It's free. And then you've got it to refer back to. And next week's podcast will be a replay, fingers crossed, of the webinar. So even if you don't get there, you'll be able to listen to it as well. So if you prefer just to listen, you'll get that anyway. But I highly recommend you sign up so you can actually watch the video if you're interested, have the ebook, because I'll send you the ebook as part of that. And also don't forget the free timer giveaway. You've got like 1 week to enter to win that big over $3,000 of timers to give away. Super excited, super easy to enter. And on Wednesday in the free webinar, I'm going to be giving out lots of prizes, not just the timers. I'm going to be giving away my new course, the social emotional learning course. I'm going to be giving away my social skills book, which I'm going to mention during this. So lots of great giveaways if you turn up live or watch the replay, but make sure you sign up so that you get the replay to watch. If you don't sign up, we don't send it to you, because we just don't want to bug people with stuff they're not interested in. Oh, I've had a few questions. It's really focused at primary age children. So the books and resources and things I'm talking about, I have mainly used with primary age children. So I don't like to recommend things unless I've used them with the age group. So I actually would recommend just come to the webinar if you're with children who are primary age. But that being said, Dr. Richard Eisenmeyer taught me this years ago, and I found it really helpful. A lot of our children are socially and emotionally 2 years behind their peers. So they might be in year 8, but more like a year 6. So if you look at the ACARA, which is the framework for the curriculum for social emotional learning, I would recommend have a look at that. And if you think you have children who are more the primary age, then I actually think the new course and the webinar could be for you anyway. Because I guess like in the webinar, what I'm planning to do is look at something like a social emotional skill like winning and losing. If you have a child who's in year 10 and still struggles with winning and losing, then the webinar is going to be helpful. And those of you in the early years, I think you might enjoy listening to the podcast because there'll be lots of practical tips, or, welcome to come along to the webinar. But most children who are 4, 3 years of age struggle with winning and losing, struggle with social emotion. I mean, I still think we should be working on it, but I suspect that the activities and the things I'm doing are more written and reading, more whole class activities, because I am a very big believer, and that's why my social skills book was written like this, that it's quick activities to do with the whole class. So the things I'm going to be showing you in the webinar are literally 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute, max 10-minute activities you can do with the whole class. And that 10 minutes is going to save you a lot of time, because when you have dysregulated children who come in from the playground upset, when you have a collaborative classroom, when you have a classroom where children work together to support each other socially and emotionally, when they understand that different children get upset by different things, when they not acknowledge each other's emotions and accept that it's okay to be happy, sad, excited, frustrated, that our classroom, it is a safe place to have every emotion. I get sad, I get angry, I get happy. And I say that to the kids when I'm teaching. Like, I'll go, today I'm tired. What am I going to do? Actually talking about your emotions out loud is half of it. Letting children know that you have emotions too. Anyway, in a busy and complex classroom, you do not have time to have a social skills lesson, I promise you, but it is vital. However, why not board games on Fridays? Think of all the social skills you can learn through board games. And I know I've done podcasts on that in the past, but, have a think how you can include some activities that teach children social emotional skills. Or after the break, if they're, recess and lunch, if there has been an issue, that's where I use my social skills book that we might talk about, like what to do if you don't have anyone to play with, what to do if children say no. That can just be a 2-minute conversation, but you need to put it down visually for the children to refer back to come back to those strategies. So they're developing an understanding of their social emotional skills. Okay, so the ebook, highly recommend you print it out, download it, put it on your phone. You can literally put it on your phone. So good. So the thing on the first page, or page 2, depending which you call the front cover, and then the first page talks about how social interactions are so multi-layered, okay? Everyone makes social mistakes. However, most of us neurotypical people can quickly notice them and repair them. For children with autism spectrum or neurodiversity, they often don't know how to repair that. And the last part of this ebook is about theory of mind. And part of it is that. So theory of mind is about understanding other people's perspectives. And the school I was in at the end of last term, it was a teacher asked, how do I get children to understand empathize with me? Well, you're right. It's a skill. We actually have to help them understand that, because many children with autism spectrum are literal and have black and white thinking, and understanding other people's emotions really hard. So that's why I would be talking them out loud. A lot of my children don't understand facial expressions. They don't understand tone of voice. All of these are part of your social skills, and that's why we need to teach the children those skills. So in my Developing Social Skills book, I have strategies to help you teach children tone of voice, body posture, even, how close to be, greetings. All of these things make a difference. But you also need to regulate your emotions with those. So if you say hello to somebody and they don't say hello back, how do you feel? Well, how about you talk to children about that? If you ask to join in a game and people say no, how do you feel? How about you talk to your whole class about that? Okay, I've gone off track, but you do need to explain it to these children, because they don't understand that non-verbal communication, the body language, the tone of voice. They have a literal interpretation of language. If you say to them, you can play next time, and then next time you say no, that child is going to get very frustrated. So this is why it has to go 2 ways. There's no point me teaching a child with neurodiversity social skills if the peers are confusing the child. We need both to adapt and accommodate to each other. So here's what I have learned over the years. The rest of us seem to learn this pretty naturally, that we just pick up social skills. We understand that each other. For children with neurodiversity, though, if we put all neurodiverse children in a room, and Dean Beadle talks about this in the teacher assistant course, and in fact, I'm putting an excerpt of that in the new course, he talks about social knowledge, that he needs social knowledge, but he also talks about that there were studies, I think it was Edinburgh University, that found if you put all neurodiverse people in a room together, they socialize a lot better. I hate the word they, sorry. People with neurodiversity socialize a lot better when it's all neurodiverse people because they all understand each other. And Dean talks about that having neurodiverse friends who socialize in the same way as him, they understand his anxiety. They understand how he engages. Sorry, I'm using the word they. I'm not sure. That doesn't sound, I don't think of it. But anyway, I hope you know what I'm saying. Remember, this is like having a cup of tea and I'm just sitting with you correcting my mistake here and I'm not sure what to say. And I'm hoping you're sitting there telling me what I should be saying. Anyway, remember, this is how social skills are. We make mistakes and then our friends help us. So I'm hoping you're going to send me an email and tell me what I should have been saying. I'm not going to push pause and start recording this again because I know what will happen. I will walk away and I won't do it. So anyway, social skills are not easy to teach as they are complex and so much depends on reading an individual and adjusting to the individual situation as they evolve, which is again why Dean Beadle says you can't teach social skills in isolation because if the peers don't react the way the child expects, then the child doesn't know what to do. So this is why we have to teach it as a whole class, as a whole school. So in my top 10 tips to remember when teaching social skills, one of the things is, number one, on page 2 of the ebook, you must adapt activities to real people and places that the child knows, okay? We need to actually include real names of people they know, real situations. When you're in the playground and Elijah said you couldn't play, what did you do? Elijah, what did you say? Actually go through that together. It's a 1-minute activity, but in actually including those people. When I take photos of faces, I don't take photos of a magazine. Line up your class. This is the selfie generation. Take photos of the children they know. Take photos of the adults they know. Dean Beadle tells this amazing story when he was doing journalism and he was had to do a fitness article and this is back when we didn't take selfies all the time. I'm sure many children today wouldn't have this challenge, but the photographer came in and took photos and Dean thought he was making all these like happy, angry, frustrated looks. And when he looked later, every photo looked the same. To him, he felt like every muscle in his face was moving, but it wasn't. So take photos of the child. Remember last term, the video, using video modeling where I had the mum and principal on to share about video modeling? Make sure you listen to that. Video modeling is a very powerful tool because it's real people and places. It's actually videoing the children playing and then talking through and explaining that situation. Okay, number 2, remember that social expectations frequently become more complex as people get older. So this is why we need to actually do repetition. We need to elaborate. We need to change. That so often many of our children, the rules have changed. So when you're under 5, you can go and ask, can I play? When you're 10, you don't ask to play, you actually merge in. It's a different language. You need to find out the language of the peers. I see children saying, things like sorry, like a 2-year-old and they're 12 years old. How does a 12-year-old say sorry to their mates? Do they tap them on the shoulder? Do they hug them? What do they do? Find out from the peers. Get actual real people and children up saying sorry. How do you say sorry to your parent versus your friend? The rules change. We need to teach all this. And this is why we need to do it in the situation. Now, number 3 is the most important one. Tell what to do, not what not to do. So you don't say no hitting, no going out of bounds, no yelling at your friends. You need to say, use a softer voice. Don't say don't scream in people's ears. Tell them what to do, not what not to do. That so often people are like, don't snatch that. Don't get angry when you lose. Tell them what to do when they lose. Tell them what to do when they're frustrated. Tell them what to do when they're sad or angry or upset. Because remember, social emotional learning isn't just about the social skills, it's about the emotional regulation as well. We need both together. Number 4, catch the students doing the right thing and reward. I go into schools all the time where so often the neurodiverse child gets in trouble because they get caught. They just, like I tell that classic story where every other child picks up a stick and they pick up a massive stick. Or the school I was in at the end of last term, they had a big chess set with the big pieces. Other children were sort of picking them up and moving them around and having a bit of fun and sort of throwing them. The kid with ASD picks it up and puts them over their head to throw it, But there's no point saying no throwing chess pieces. Remind them what to do. The chess pieces need to stay and be moved, and show them how to move it. Don't just tell them what not to do. Instead of like saying, no, James, you might say, James, wait, Sarah was first. So telling them what to do, okay? Catch students doing the right thing, and in catching things doing the right thing, be careful with your language. So those two go together. This is number 5, is the one people just forget, and why we have to keep teaching in real situations. Do not assume they'll generalize. So they might learn to lose playing noughts and crosses, but can they generalize that skill to a board game? Can they generalize that skill to Connect 4? Many of my students learn things in one situation, and generalization is transferring skills. Can they transfer the skills? Number 6, engage peers, as they can be great role models, and encourage the students in a range of situations. When you engage the peers, that means instead of them saying no throwing the chess pieces, they will use the right language too. That when we engage the peers, this is where we collaborate and work together. This is my passion. In collaborative classrooms, when we teach social skills as a whole class, everybody gets engaged, and I create a community. And when we create that community in our classroom, we all support each other and understand all of us have good and bad days. All of us have days that we are frustrated or sad or confused. So highly recommend teach it in situation. Now, be a role model, particularly with younger children. This is like, be slightly dramatic. So with your body language, tone of voice, with coping with mistakes, with losing, just be a little bit more dramatic, because what I find, some of my children don't notice unless I'm a little bit dramatic. And you'll know the kids you need to be dramatic with by the friends they choose. So a lot of my children choose quite dramatic friends because they get them. They actually see their emotions and what's going on. So I don't know why. No one's done research on it, but I have found over the years when I'm teaching social emotional learning, sometimes I have to be a little bit more dramatic than just going, I'm sad. It's like I'll get a tissue and I'll be like, I'm really sad today. I've had a really tough time. I didn't get to have my lunch because I was on yard duty. And, the photocopier broke and it's just making me sad. Oh, now I'm wondering if I'm frustrated rather than sad. Oh, my goodness. Can you hear that I'm being really dramatic? So some of you won't need to practice that. But what I find is that's really helpful. Particularly Angels, teacher assistants, I'd love you to do lots of role modelling and being dramatic and telling the other kids. The kids love being dramatic. You don't have to ask them twice. Now, number 8 is the one people forget the most, and why I wrote my Developing Social Skills. So many people make social skills verbal, not visual. So if there's an incident in the playground, unless you've got a pen and paper there, don't talk to them about, they did the wrong thing. When they come in, you're going to do a playground plan. What are you going to play? Where are you going to play? What are the rules you need to remember? And write it down. Add photos, add video. Practice it out. What are you going to do if you lose? Write it down. You need to write it down. Conversations need to be mind maps. Show them how to map out their conversations. So please, please, please remember, it needs to be visual. Number 9, make it quick and fun. Well, look, in a busy classroom, you don't have time to do a big lesson on what to do if you lose, or what to do if your friends don't want to play with you, what to do if you have no one to play with. That's one of the ones I love to do that's in my book, is actually making a list in your school. What are activities you can do if your friends are away or you don't have anyone to play with? Make a list, okay? And then number 10, practice, practice, practice. Just practice, practice, practice. So we're going to do quick little activities every day, I reckon 10 minutes a day max, little social emotional learning. That can just be when you walk from your table today, I want you to walk with a sad face. When you walk from your table today, I want you to walk with your posture like you're angry. When you walk from your table to the lining up today, I want you to walk too close to people. And the kids will love it. There's our social emotional activities done in 1 quick second. Yes? Getting kids to walk around the room and saying, can I play? And people saying, no, no, no. And then changing it. Instead of saying no, what else could you say to that person? Sorry, I'm playing with someone else today, but how about we play tomorrow? Just getting them to, make it fun. Anyway, in my social skills book, there are so many activities you can do as a class that are so much fun and the kids love them. Personally, I think NAPLAN should measure social emotional more than they measure maths, English. Social emotional skills are vital. If you've ever watched Employable Me, which is about getting neurodiverse people jobs. It was on the ABC. You'll notice the social skills and the social anxiety is the barrier to having a job. And even though people can have jobs online, they still have to get on Zoom and interact and talk to their boss. So, it's a misunderstanding. Our children don't want connections. Watch Love on the Spectrum. They definitely want connection. Those of you who have listened to my podcast for a while, the mum last term that sent in on my Facebook going, my son wants friends, and he's lonely. Now that he's not at school, what can we do to create social connection? And all the great ideas that came from that. But please understand, my children want social connection. They're often just exhausted by it and maybe want connection differently, maybe not every day of the week, maybe once a week. But we need to accommodate each child's individual social and emotional needs. And really, this is why I've created my new social skills course or social emotional learning course, just to accommodate that for our diverse learners and think about how we put that in place. So, the next page is about making friends and being a friend. And this is one of, like I just talked about, one of the biggest myths around autism spectrum, that they often desperately want friends and worry about their friends. And often the more they stress about the friends, the more withdrawn they come, which of course makes the situation worse. For students with AS, a little extra support may be required to create friendships. For instance, when teachers allow children to select their own partners, children with ASD are often left out. Instead, staff should consider who is a good partner. And also, I would also be more proactive with pairing them with a range of students, not the same students all the time. And have a think about where they can be the knowledgeable one in the group. Some of my children always feel like the other child's being their buddy or mentor. I like it where my children feel like they're the knowledgeable one. So have a think about that. And parents, I would encourage you to support the school by organising some out-of-school activities. So having children over for play dates, meeting children in the park to join in, after-school activities, encouraging those friendships. And in that video modelling episode that I did, the mum videoed that play date and then explained to her son the games and what they were playing. And he was dropping to the ground because he was overwhelmed. So actually noticing your child, what are the skills they might be needing? What are they experiencing? Talking to them about it. So why do we teach this? Because making and maintaining friendship is a constant challenge for everyone, not just ASD kids. Think of yourself. Have you had friendships over the years that have broken up, that you had a good friend you're not friends with anymore? My guess is there's someone in your life right now that you've had in conflict with, or you used to be closer friends, you're not now. Like, friendships evolve, and we need to tell children that. We need to explain that I had a big fallout with my friend in year 9, or I used to be friends with this person, but they moved away. They're still my friend, but I don't talk to them as much. Like, talk about that, yes? It's important to explore the nature of friendships with children and help them understand that Friendship's a two-way thing, helping them understand that friendships has to be two-way, because this is often why my children burn friendships out, because they want to be in control. So we need to talk to them about friendly things to do. What do friends do? Friends let their friend have something, or they share, or what do friends do? And in the social skills book, there's a whole lot of stuff around being a friend and what's friendly things to do. And then there's a social script there on being a good sport, which I'm going to be talking about in the webinar on Wednesday. The other thing that is here is my friendship funnel, which is understanding the stages of friendships. And I would love you. Stage 1 is saying hello. Stage 2 is being an acquaintance, which on occasional conversation. Stage 3, early potential friendship, is where you might share things together, that you might hang out a bit more. But stage 4 is where you actually developing a friendship, whereas you make an effort to catch up. So you might have them over for a play date or arrange to meet in the playground in the morning. So you can get children to actually share what it looks like, because what it looks like when you're 7 compared to 12 is different. Friends constantly make an effort to maintain a friendship and spend time together. So what does that look like for the children in your class? And number 6 is close friends. And this is who you share your secrets with, because some of my children are doing that back at stage 2. So have a look at where your children are at, which stage of friendship, and then what are the skills they need to develop the next level of friendship. And parents, where's your child at? How do you help them develop those friendships? So there's some ideas of how to do that on the page. The next one is about lunchtime clubs and passive playgrounds. Now, when I was thinking about this, originally I was going to do a webinar on setting up your playground. And then I realized that actually, whose job is that? Like most schools, the playground, unless you have a dedicated learning support team or a school counsellor who considers that an important part of their role, I realized that actually, as important as it is, often there's not someone whose job it is. So I was like, oh, if I do a webinar on playgrounds, I can feel a lot of teachers just going, oh, that's not my role. Even though I would say that actually setting up lunchtime clubs and playgrounds is vital. So I suspect teacher assistants, this might be really helpful for you. So this talks about top tips for creating a successful lunchtime club. Now, when I first started doing this was because I would go into schools and see teacher assistants were literally just shadowing the child on the playground, and it wasn't helping them make friendships, connection, develop social skills. So you might find this really helpful. Like, what are you going to set up? What are you going to call it? What days is it going to be open? How many children can be in the club? Do teachers decide who goes? So all those tips are on the page. And also about passive playgrounds, which is having a classroom open at lunchtime. Can I say teachers love that yard duty, by the way? So maybe if you would like to set something up in your school, you might consider having a passive playground. And in that passive playground, you can have outboard games. It's a quieter space. It's a sensory-friendly space. Often the library ends up being that space if you don't have one open. A lot of my children go there. Thank you. Big shout out to all the librarians who have board games and activities out in their library. So passive playgrounds are a great way for children to develop social skills in a more sensory-friendly environment that's calmer, quieter, and just a little bit more structured. Buddy benches, and there's a great picture of a buddy bench there, is another way. Then what I've included is a whole lot of common playground behaviours and solutions. So too aggressive with other students. And then the reason why, often children with AS don't realise how forceful they are being and are unknowingly hurting students. Can I tell you that is so often the case? Because my children with their sensory don't actually themselves don't feel pain, they don't realise. So I've seen kids playing chasey or tag, and my ASD or ADHD child pushes another child over, and they are far too forceful, but they don't realise how forceful they're being. So again, that could be an activity. Walk around the classroom and touch the person like in a tagging appropriate way, or touch the person to get their attention. Actually knowing how to touch. I have other children who do the slightest tap, and then I have children who tap, 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 tap when they want my attention. So just getting children to tap lightly the person next to them, or tap, tap and wait. Like teaching that skill is so important. So difficulty winning and losing, I'm going to cover more of that in the webinar. Not taking turns. Often my children with AS miss the cues that other children want to turn, or they take something off a child because they don't see they were playing with it. Like the child puts it down for a moment as part of the game. I see this all the time. And my ASD child takes it because they're like they didn't have it because they didn't have their hand on it. Can you see the confusion there? Again, that's to do with mind blindness that I'm going to come back to in a minute. Unsure how to join in. So again, social scripts are amazing for that. And then taking risks on the playground, like kids who take risks, go out of bounds, climb up high, climb a tree. And often that has to do with sensory processing. So what I recommend there is you actually go to the playground when there isn't other children there. And again, take photos, video model, get them to kinesthetically do it. Because some of my children, when there's 300 children running around screaming on the playground, they actually are climbing up high to escape that sensory chaos. And this one is stalking other children. Now, some of you are like, what? Stalking? Yes. Some of my children, it's actually not stalking. It's they want to be friends with that child, but they don't know how to approach them. I have seen over the years where that is absolutely the reason, or they were friends in the past and the friendship, they're not friends anymore, and the child doesn't understand why, so they'll just be watching them, and that watching can be sort of this stare that looks like stalking. So that's why I called it stalking. Now, the next thing I said I'd talk about is theory of mind. So this is because social skills are not logical, they're not black and white, they're not literal, and for my students with theory of mind challenges, it is so hard because they can't predict what's happening. So it's called mind blindness. And mind blindness is the ability to predict what other people are thinking. And that is impossible, right? But you and I, not you and I, because I don't know, you could be on the spectrum. But for people with who are neurotypical, we naturally can sort of guess what people are thinking. For children with neurodiversity, they can't. They do these Sally Ann doll experiments. So Simon Baron-Cohen is the expert on theory of mind and mind blindness and who originally came up with this whole theory. I highly recommend Google Simon Baron-Cohen and look at the Sally Ann dolls because that really explains why children with autism spectrum don't understand. They literally have mind blindness. They can't predict what your mind is thinking. And I know you'd all be going, but Sue, none of us are telepathic. None of us. Yes, every day you're predicting. When people say to you, no, you can't have something, you don't think never again for the rest of your life. If you've listened to the Your Words Matter podcast, that's exactly why. Words like stop and no don't tell the child what to do. And why I'm saying you need to teach social skills in the situation with the children, that other children explain their emotions and how they're feeling. Get children to say, why did you say the child couldn't play with you? Why did you say no? Oh, only 4 people can play the game. We've already got 4 people. You know, my children won't know that. They just hear no and then get more socially anxious. So what you mean is we've got 4 people. We don't need someone else today. Tomorrow, how about, Jessica doesn't, I don't know. Think about it. Think about how you can explain things. So in the theory of mind, that is where there's my favorite book that I mentioned on the recent podcast about all my favorite resources and why I use them. And there's a book called Why Do I Have To, which I absolutely love, which has things like, why do I have to listen to the teacher talking about something I already know? That's a theory of mind issue. And in that Why Do I Have To book, it talks through why you have to. Why do I have to rest when I'm not tired? Again, in the book, it explains. Why do I have to stop talking about things I like? And in the book, it explains. What I recommended on the last podcast when I talked about that book was getting the child, if they can read, to read that out themselves and record it so they hear their own voice, particularly from my oppositional defiant disorder and pathological demand avoidance children. I love this book for that group of kids because it's not me telling them, it's a book explaining the why. So it's called Why Do I Have To? Highly recommend that. Now, lots of you have my Developing Social Skills book in your school. It's a yellowy orange one that has like what to teach, how to teach, ready to go. And in that book, it has things like turn taking on page 42, sharing on page 42 and 69, expressing ideas and emotions on page 79, thinking before I speak on page 62, saying sorry, page 71, compromise on page 64, dealing with anger and frustration on pages 85 to 89, staying calm in times of stress on page 79, appreciating differences on page 94, and using self-control and the stop, think, do that many of you use, but there's a whole lot of worksheets and quick tip sheets on page 29. So in the ebook, I've sort of got a visual that's really popular on Facebook that explains here are the key social skills children need, and they're all covered in the book if you're looking for a time saver. I then have a page of all my favourite social skills books, including that Why Do I Have To, How to Stop Your Words from Bumping, and my Socially Speaking board game, not mine, but the Socially Speaking board game by Alison Schroeder. I know it's expensive, but it is the best board game. Every school should have that. I'm being extreme by saying it, but take the cards out, do them with the whole class. Like what to do if you hurt somebody, what to do if someone says you can't play, what to do if someone says, I had a great weekend. What's the next thing you say to them? Then there's my books at the back there, and that is the end of the ebook. So I hope you have downloaded it, or if not, inspired to go back and download it. I'm hoping I'll see you at the webinar on Wednesday. And have a great, I'd love you to take a chance to stop and reflect on what you're seeing socially and emotionally in your students and what you can do to be proactive, not reactive. So if you've got children coming in dysregulated or coming in without someone to play with, what are the skills you can put in place? If you do 2 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day for a week, that would be 25 minutes, and I promise you will be giving the children the skills they need rather than spending hours trying to unravel situations. And if you have children who aren't in full-time school, I believe the social emotional is the key. The social, teaching the social skills and the emotional, so the social emotional learning. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday, and if not, I look forward to seeing you hopefully at an upcoming workshop. I'm so looking forward to being out, seeing you in Canberra, Tamworth, Cairns. Where else am I going? Cairns, Townsville. Oh gosh, I'm having a moment. Live virtual. You can zoom in from anywhere this term and join me. And don't forget, if you register nice and early, you'll get your show bag with the handout, with highlighters, texters, lollies, and sensory tool for the day. So look forward to seeing you soon, whether it's face-to-face or online. I hope you've got some great tips and strategies to make a difference. Remember, strategies wear out, and not every strategy works for everybody. If you're ready to dive in deeper to more strategies and ideas to make a difference, I'd highly recommend you consider Dr. Tony Atwood or my online courses. For more information, visit my website www.sulaki.com.au.